evening. I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Town of Wendell Board of Commissioners and welcome you all. Thank you for being here with us tonight. I also want to welcome Councilwoman Stein, and Councilman Tom Clancy, both from the Town of Lewisburg. They're visiting with us tonight and watching how we do some things in our meeting, so we hope that we can be of assistance to you. If you need some questions, feel free to ask afterwards. We are being led tonight in the Pledge of Allegiance by Wendell Elementary School student Max Franco. If you can come up to the podium, please, Max. Maximiliano Franco is a third grader at Wendell Elementary School. Max always soars in class. He works very hard and always participates. He is a super kind young man and is always looking out for his classmates. He's worked very hard over the past few years to overcome some learning challenges. He's a very happy, well-mannered young man with whom we are all proud to have here at Wendell Elementary School. Well, you sure are thought well of at Wendell Elementary School. All right, I'll stand up.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty, justice for all.
That's good. Thank you very much. For our invocation tonight from the Wendell Council of Churches, we're going to hear from Covenant Presbyterian Church, Nicole Beals. Good evening.
Good evening. Let us pray. Lord, who enlightens us, we ask for your supernatural wisdom as the mayor and the Board of Commissioners make some tough decisions in this meeting. Help them to carefully consider the relevant information that has been gathered. May those sharing information give them pertinent points so they all clearly understand. Help them to be innovative as they brainstorm solutions. Help them to wisely evaluate all options considering the pros and cons. Help them to be unified in making the best possible decisions for the town of Wendell and to effectively carry them out. Amen.
Thank you. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Okay. For public comment period, just as a reminder, the public can participate in public comment in two ways: by signing up for public comment the night of the meeting, and you have 3 minutes to speak, or you can submit written statements via email to the town clerk. They need to be received Friday before the Monday night meeting, and they will be read into the record for the length of 3 minutes. We have one person tonight, Barry Perry.
Madam Mayor,
Mm-hmm.
do we need to vote on the agenda?
I didn't vote on it, did I?
Real quick. Sorry.
Okay. Oh, thank you. I'm rushing through. So do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, now Barry Perry.
Thank you.
I'm not going to read all the other again.
Good evening, I'm Barry Perry. I live at 428 Vintage Point Lane in Wendell, also the owner of Perry's Gun Shop in Wendell. As always, I want to always thank our elected officials as well as our town employees for their outstanding service. No one understands how much it means to us that have our conscience nice and calm knowing you're taking very good care of us, so thanks again for that. My comment this evening was literally to speak in favor of the request from Pine Street from Joe Pino. I hope I'm at the right time, but I just wanted to tell you what a wonderful neighbor they've been and how excited we are to see them continuing to expand their business, and we're 100% in favor of what they're doing. Thank you.
If you'd like to speak again in his public hearing, you can do that at that time. Okay.
With all due respect, the last time I did that, it was a couple hours later, so I took my early opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Making sure I'm covering all my bases since I already tried to skip something. You're welcome. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving into our recognitions, reports, and presentations. Item 4A is the recognition of Wendell Elementary School Miss Sarah Downing. You can come up to the podium. Sarah Downing is the magnet coordinator at Wendell Elementary School. She previously was a second grade teacher and a kindergarten teacher. Sarah was the Teacher of the Year in 2021, 2022. Congratulations for that. This year, Sarah began her role as our magnet coordinator. She's worked hard to help our school earn the recognition of Magnet School of Distinction. Sarah is always working hard to promote our school in the community. She works well with all students and staff and is a joy to have at Wendell Elementary School. We wanted to have you here tonight and just thank you for everything that you do and have done and continue to do for our kids at Wendell Elementary School. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Is there anything you...
We have a arts and science showcase on April 20th from 5 to 7, and we would love it for whoever could come out to see all the wonderful things our kids have been doing. So we hope to see you there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again. All right, item 4B is the presentation of the draft 2023 strategic plan.
Good evening, Board. Town Manager Mark Collins, and I will do a presentation on the proposed strategic initiatives and the Board's prioritization for the 2023 strategic plan. As you know, strategic plans are used to establish actionable initiatives. They really are the guidance that links the resources available to the community vision. And further, it's a commitment of both you as the board and town staff and staff leadership to follow through on that. Our strategic plans are done every 2 years. They guide the budgets for that 2-year period. Sometimes we get everything done in the strategic initiatives. Other times we're just advancing what we can do in that 2-year period. We had some new things this year as part of the plan development, as you know. We started last fall with your board retreat, getting the initial feedback, which you've been hearing from the last couple of years, giving some guidance to staff. We also received input from the departments on what was anticipated to be completed and what next steps would be. And so that helped develop draft initiatives for the 5 strategic goals. And those were presented at 4 different community charrettes. And I presented at y'all's budget retreat the responses from those 91 participants and multiple votes to see where different parts of our community had differing values and consistencies. We also presented out to the appointed boards, citizen advisory boards, to get their input and feedback on the initiatives. And so tonight is the presentation of the culmination that y'all have seen, but the public hadn't seen. So presenting out to the public that, and then we'll return that at your next meeting in the formal bound document or document format for your adoption. After that, it gets incorporated into your budget document, and each budget year will say what is being implemented in that budget to advance that strategic plan. When we get into prioritization, I'm going to use 2 terms. One is high priority. That means 3 to 4, basically a voting majority felt that it was a priority. Top priority, 5 to 6, a super majority or consensus of the board felt that something was strong. All the initiatives are important. Nothing's unimportant on the list, but this helps staff when we're developing budgets and we have limited resources, identify where perhaps the community and board want us to lean into a little bit more. So, you know, we were on the game show channel a little bit, and y'all got to do your prioritization and ranking, and I tend to have more fun than maybe y'all do it during that, but I appreciate y'all humoring me. A lot of small words for those playing at home. It'll be available online shortly and in advance of the next meeting for review. They have been obviously available to the public the last few months during the charrette process. And I won't go through and read each one, but what I will do is kind of highlight what the top and high priorities that were identified for. That's the thing that's changed since the last time I presented to the board. So in goal 1, which is downtown vibrancy, economic growth, and community character. Top priorities were evaluating areas near I-87 and the Wake Tech campus for expansion of non-residential development to promote diversity of the tax base and job growth. A second top priority in this area was Goal 7, seek opportunities around downtown to encourage infill development and redevelopment for vacant, dilapidated, and underutilized properties, while encouraging the preservation of historic structures and architectural elements. There were 3 high priorities for Goal 1. Goal 5, or Initiative 5, identify funding opportunities to implement the downtown streetscape plan and fund enhanced services in the downtown area. 8, work with Pleasant Grove Baptist Church, Wake County, and area nonprofits, as well as neighborhood residents to complete a neighborhood plan to include areas within the town jurisdiction, rehabilitate the old Carver School into a community center, and extend services and infrastructure, public and private, into the community. And finally, the last high priority, number 10, seek opportunities to promote and preserve the unique history and environment around Wendell by identifying projects with capital area preservation, Wendell Historical Society, the Conservation Fund, Triangle Land Conservancy, and other like partners. 20% done already.
Mark, just
Yes.
as we're moving into the, is there gonna be a point when we put these out for people to look, as they're being reviewed by the public, will the part that you're talking about right now, the high priorities and top priorities, will it be reformatted to illustrate that, or is that just a thing for us to know?
Yeah, 100%. We've been working actually with our communications manager / filling in deputy clerk tonight, Megan Howard. We've got a new plan format as well that'll be rolled out in the next 2 weeks, and it'll have a page that behind this that identifies top and high priorities. Goal 2, public safety and neighborhood improvement. There were 2 top and 1 high in this area. Initiative 4, further traffic calming efforts when warranted through evaluation of speed limits, physical improvements, all-way stops and signalization, public education and enforcement. Times out well with something you'll see later on the agenda tonight, a traffic calming policy moving forward to help with that. Number 7, support police department efforts and public safety partnerships to enhance training and equipment for high-risk and active shooter response in coordination with area education and community partners. So as our community grows and our responsibility grows, our abilities to respond to varying activities grow. And then the high priority was Strategic Initiative 1, continue neighborhood improvement program project efforts in Zone 2 to improve sidewalk connectivity between existing housing, schools, and downtown. That's continuing that effort of adding sidewalk, filling in sidewalk gaps, improving streets, improving stormwater, making ADA crosswalk availability within some of the older neighborhoods that aren't building to our current subdivision standards back when they happened, to make sure that we have safe, walkable, connected communities. Goal 3 is infrastructure, transportation, and the environment. A top priority here is Initiative 3, conduct a sidewalk condition survey and establish a 5-year plan for the maintenance, replacement, and extension of sidewalks consistent with the Wendell pedestrian plan. As well as Initiative 9, work with regional partners to promote mobility options such as continuation of Go Wake microtransit and implementing the regional bus plan. You have 3 high priorities for this. Number 4, evaluating opportunities to update the transportation and pedestrian plans for consistency with the adopted land use plan and promote mobility and accessibility. Number 5, implement projects to improve stormwater drainage by repairing existing systems that cross 3rd Street downtown and restoring Blakeford Dam off Todd Lane. And then number 8, establish an infrastructure plan for the extension and connection of water and sewer in coordination with City of Raleigh to promote appropriate development, annexation, and close service gaps. Parks, recreation, special events, open space, and culture. 3 top and 2 high on this one. This is 4 out of 5. Number 3, initiate design on a recreation facility to provide accessible program space and increase the number of indoor recreation and gym facilities to accommodate growing programs for basketball, volleyball, and other court sports. Number 5, complete the concept design and construction of the first phase of Buffalo Creek Greenway and schedule the construction of future phases. Real close to finishing the contract agreement with Surface to start that Greenway design project now. And then number 8, establish a project schedule to implement Greenway projects identified in the updated Wendell Greenway plan that staff's updating this fiscal year. You got the 2 high priorities. Number 2, design an athletic field complex to increase local options for field sports such as soccer, lacrosse, and football in Wendell. And number 7, identify and plan for the acquisition of neighborhood parks and open space in areas of town that need additional access consistent with the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Last but not least, Goal 5, organizational culture and communication. It's more internal in how we as an organization work with the public. You have 2 top, 3 top, and 1 high. Initiative 1 is a top priority, continue enhancements to employee professional development and continuing education opportunities to establish succession planning and meet ever-increasing skills needed for public service delivery. Number 3, work with the financial advisor to establish a fiscally sustainable plan to fund needed capital improvements to ensure adequate public facilities, parks, greenways, roads, and infrastructures available as the community as it grows. And number 7, establish an organization-wide customer relations management system, a CRM, to receive, track, respond, and report to inquiries from citizens and customers of the town to maintain responsive service delivery as the community grows. Not that we don't do that currently, it's just to be intentional and have a process, formal process set up to do that. Number 4 is a high priority, enhance organization communication to support clear and consistent messaging to the public for the municipal services provided and achievements obtained through the implementation of established communication plans. So those were the top and high priorities from the multitude of initiatives across 5 goal areas to implement the vision statement for the town of Wendell. Is there anything that you heard that's inconsistent that the board would like to discuss further, remove, or add before we take it on to publication and adoption?
Any comments from the board? All right.
Thank you.
Talked it all out that day. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll move into section 5, our public hearings. The first section, number 5A, is a request to rezone approximately .32 acres located at 36 North Pine Street from manufacturing industrial to downtown mixed use. And we're going to hear from Janine Inguira. Did I say it right?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Thank you.
I practiced. Good.
Thank you very much. So, I'm presenting to you this request to rezone from Grill Billy's Barbecue. They'd like to rezone the .32 acre parcel where their business is located from manufacturing and industrial to downtown mixed use. They would like to have a meeting space and sell alcohol for on-site consumption. The applicant has also requested a special use permit. This is where the Grill Billy's is located on the corner of East 4th Street and North Pine Street. And in the surrounding areas, you have the red, that's the DMX zoning district. Blue is neighborhood center. and the lavender is manufacturing and industrial. You've got the town hall on the opposite corner, vacant lot across the street, park and ride just next door, and a community service organization on the other side of Pine Street. These are the uses that are permitted with standards and permitted with SUP. You got this in your packet. Right now, they are a retail use, and they are requesting to be a bar, tavern, nightclub, and an indoor and outdoor, or indoor event venue. The comprehensive plan, Blueprint Wendell 2030, identifies this parcel as part of the downtown core. The appropriate uses include retail, restaurants, and event spaces. Statement of plan consistency and reasonableness. The rezoning is consistent with the downtown core place type in the Blueprint Wendell 2030, since retail, restaurants, and event space are listed as appropriate uses and could be considered reasonable as it assists with the plan goals listed there. Downtown D1, strengthen downtown as the heart and central gathering place of the community, and economic development E3, diversify the local economy and increase employment opportunities in Wendell. Their neighborhood meeting was held on February 16th, 2023, and the proposed rezoning is consistent with the Wendell Comprehensive Plan, so staff does recommend approval. Planning Board voted 7-0 on the motion to recommend approval of the rezoning request. And I can answer any questions if you have them.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing. Are there any questions from the board?
And Janine, just from my memory, will this be within our social district as
Yes.
well? This is still, okay.
It
right.
is. It's in the social district.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, is there anyone that's here with us tonight? Well, no, let's not do that yet. Does Mr. Pino, is he here?
I don't.
Okay, that's fine. I couldn't see if he was here or not. All right, is there anyone in the room that would like to say anything in favor or about this? I knew I'd get you quicker than 2 hours. So hear your name and address again.
This was really quickly. I'm Barry Perry, 428 Vintage Point Lane, the owner of Perry's Gun Shop. I want to reiterate what I said earlier, but I did not wisely use my 3 minutes earlier, and I wanted to make another comment and congratulate the town and the town officials on our Arbor Day celebration and how fabulous that was. What a wonderful event, and a lot of people here, and I couldn't very well sit here and not thank y'all for a wonderful event. We truly enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak about the zoning change or Arbor Day? Anyone else? All right, anything else from the board? All right, we'll close the public hearing. What's y'all's pleasure?
Madam Mayor, I move we approve the proposed rezoning request to make, that includes a statement of plan consistency and reasonableness.
Okay, so you have a motion to approve the rezoning request, including the statement of plan consistency and reasonableness. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. All right. Moving on, item 5B is an evidentiary hearing on a special use permit, request by Joseph Pino of Grillbilly's Barbecue LLC to allow a meeting venue and bar tavern nightclub at 36 North Pine Street, PIN number 17847033269. Mr. Attorney, can you give us the rules about a evidentiary hearing?
Yes, Mayor. This is an evidentiary hearing, quasi-judicial in nature, unlike the legislative hearing you just had on the rezoning. This is governed by certain procedural rules. Due process rules apply. Witnesses are sworn. The decision has to be based on substantial, material, and competent evidence in the record. And you are basically acting as fact finders, much like judges. you take the evidence and see if the findings in the ordinance can be satisfied.
Okay.
Any questions?
Any questions? All right, anyone who's going to give evidence needs to be sworn. Let's take care of that, and if there's anyone that's here with us tonight watching, that's joining us tonight, you would need to be sworn as well. Step forward and be sworn. All right. We'll hear from Janine and Guerra again.
Okay. Joseph Pino of Grill Billy's Barbecue has requested a special use permit to allow a meeting venue and bar tavern nightclub at 36 North Pine Street. The special use permit criteria, I'm not going to read all of these. This was included in your packet. A through K, they're the criteria from the UDO that need to be met to approve the SUP. Things like the proposed use does not affect adversely the general plans or the comp plan or the development of the town, will not be detrimental to the development of adjacent properties, will not constitute a nuisance or hazard. We put these up front so that we can keep them in mind as you evaluate the request. These are the definitions from the UDO of a meeting facility, indoor event venue, and bar tavern nightclub. Below are the additional standards for a meeting facility, indoor event venue. But since the property is being rezoned to DMX and is not part of an infill development, neither of the standards actually apply. And this is the additional standard for a bar, tavern, and nightclub, which basically is that it shouldn't be located within 300 feet of a church, school, or residential district. And it is not. The East Wake Education Foundation, which is directly across the street, was determined as to be a community service organization and not a school by Teresa Piner, who was a planning director, October 2010. Again, the project setting, surrounding uses, you have vacant lot, park and ride, town hall, community service organization. The zoning district was just approved to be DMX. The parking, there are several public parking lots close by as well as on-street parking that can be utilized. And the building is already connected to city water and sewer. The downtown core place type lists commercial uses such as retail, restaurants, and event spaces as appropriate for this lot. The applicant, held a neighborhood meeting on February 16th, 2023, and planning staff actually does not make recommendations on special use permits. We just do the staff analysis. And up there is the legal advertisement information listed. And for the conditions of approval, if the Board of Commissioners grants the special use permit, staff recommends the following condition: that all applicable building permits, laws, and codes are obtained or maintained. That's it.
All right, let's open the public hearing. Are there any questions from the board? Yes.
Janine or Brian, the 300 feet rule on bars, taverns, and or nightclubs, and this is purely curiosity on my part. If hypothetically a school decides to locate in this building afterwards, does it cut both ways? I understand that a bar couldn't, under those rules, a bar couldn't come in within 300 feet of a nightclub, but if the nightclub's already existing, how does that work? Or, Mr. Attorney?
You want to answer?
It wouldn't prevent the school from occupying a spot within 300 feet.
Okay, it's the other way. Good to know. Thank you.
Anything else?
No, ma'am.
Anything else? All right, is there anyone, well, I guess not, no one was sworn in and Mr. Pino's not here. So, if there's no additional comments from the board, we'll close the public hearing. What's y'all's pleasure?
Madam Mayor, I move we grant the special use permit as, including, the condition by staff that all applicable building permits, laws, codes be obtained or maintained.
So we have a motion to approve the special use permit with the condition stated at 36 North Pine Street. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, all in favor, or is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. All right, thank y'all. We're going to move into our administrative items now. Item 6A is the Town of Wendell Traffic Calming Policy. We're going to hear from our Assistant Town Manager, Stephanie Smith. Good evening.
Good evening. Staff has prepared a traffic calming policy to establish a procedure for any members of the public who are interested in some type of traffic calming measure on a town-owned road. Traffic calming refers to physical measures that are placed in the roadway with the goal of slowing vehicular speeds. As I mentioned, the process is one that the public can follow to request traffic calming on town-owned neighborhood streets. The intended outcome of traffic calming is to promote safety, reduce speeding, maintain proper movement of emergency vehicles, and increase quality of life for residents of Wendell. So I'll quickly go through what is included in the policy. The policy itself was included in the packets. This proposed policy is developed in response to strategic initiative of Goal 2. Mark talked about this earlier this evening, that this initiative will carry over into the strategic plan update, guiding the organization to initiate a process to evaluate minor collector and local road intersections for traffic calming measures to include all areas of town. Staff completed a comparative analysis of other municipal jurisdictions in the area. We also received input from town engineer, and this effort include input from administration, planning, police, and public works. The policy includes warrants for staff to consider in analyzing the need for traffic calming measures, whether the work is staff generated or received from the public. Currently, there's not a policy or procedure in place, so this policy would establish a consistent and streamlined process for residents or staff that identify a potential need for traffic calming. The policy does not commit the town to specific treatments or expenses, but the policy does identify criteria that must be met in order for a road section to be considered for traffic calming evaluation. So residents who have concerns about traffic and pedestrian safety can follow the steps of the policy to request assistance. Town-owned neighborhood streets maintained by the town are the only streets covered by this process. We recognize that not everybody knows what is town-owned and what is state-owned. So for state-owned roads that we receive concerns about, town will assist in submitting requests to DOT for evaluation. So going through the policy itself, following criteria must be met in order to qualify for an evaluation. Speed limit of 35 or less, no more than 2 travel lanes, no cul-de-sacs, traffic volume of less than 4,000 vehicles a day, and 15% of the traffic on the street must exceed the posted speed limit by more than 5 miles per hour as determined by staff through field analysis. If that above or previous slide criteria is met and an evaluation is conducted, the town engineer will consult with the town manager or designee and will use the following criteria to begin a study and evaluate whether a device is warranted. That criteria includes speed data, sign and pavement marking details, so going out and physically seeing what is existing in that location, roadway geometric details, whether or not there is on-street parking, any accident data collected from the police department, and just general observation of pedestrian, bicycle, and/or golf cart activity. If the criteria at any point in the process is not met, the applicant, if it is a member of the public, would be notified by staff. Additional requests for traffic calming in the same area would not be considered within a 2-year period without enough cause. Staff would determine if there is enough cause to warrant an additional study within that 2-year period. Policy also outlines all the possible calming devices that might be utilized. The policy itself goes into description of what each of these devices means. We recognize not everybody will know what a chicane means. So we have a definition as well as illustration to give the public a better idea of the type of traffic calming devices that the town would potentially recommend. Certain types of roads are not eligible for all traffic calming measures. That includes bus routes, collector roads, routes where traffic calming devices may create unacceptable delays in emergency response times, snowplow routes, and also mentioned before, state-owned roads. So this is a flow chart. Again, this is small print. The actual policy is in the packet. But it takes you through the process from beginning to end of what would happen when a request is submitted. This is under the assumption that it's submitted by a member of the public. So it would first be submitted and received by the Public Works Department and town engineer, who will evaluate the request. Any general speeding complaints that aren't in the criteria of traffic calming devices would be relayed to the police department, who would be able to address through data collection, education, and traffic enforcement. When eligibility criteria is met, Public Works and town engineer will notify planning and police to begin the study process, and they'll move through that criteria that I mentioned at the previous slide. This includes police reviewing historical data, Public Works, and conducting the actual study. Again, failure to meet criteria at any part of the process would result in communication with the person requesting. If the traffic calming method is deemed to be warranted, the recommendation would be forwarded to the Public Works Department for inclusion in current or future capital projects budgets. Staff will then notify Board of Commissioners for awareness and/or approval depending on what traffic calming measure is planned. And then, again, the applicant will be notified of findings and the plan for installation of the traffic calming measure. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board?
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
and sort of comments, and I think maybe the question is more for the board and just where everybody else is at. I think, overall, one, thank you, really like the point that we're getting at. I think it's a great concept. There's one thing in it that I really don't like, which is speed bumps, and that's just how I feel. I don't think that they should be on streets. I think they're bad. I don't think that they do good things. I also think there are a couple of really important things that are not included, at least as far as I can tell. So maybe this is a little bit of my first question just for staff, is if you think this kind of is already addressed somewhere, as maybe, I guess, as traffic calming devices or techniques, I guess, just restriping of a street, and then speed limit reductions. Are those incorporated, I guess, in a way that's not explicit, or would that be something that you would need us to proactively decide needed to be added as a device or technique?
So I could talk to the street lining. That would be included in general street maintenance. So over the course of the evaluation and the study that would be done, part of that criteria would be just the observation of the area itself, including sign and pavement marking details. So it's not explicitly detailed in this policy, but if it's noted that lines are missing and that may cause confusion, then that would be corrected through Public Works and their regular maintenance of those roads. The measures would be new devices that aren't currently part of the road network itself. And so the intention of listing out the measures or the devices here are they would be a new ad, so to speak. So restriping and making sure that the existing structure of the roads are in place would be captured through that evaluation criteria process.
With the speed limit process, which I like to refer to as the Boyette Doctrine, that was his. Is that completely separate from this, handled separately?
Yes, so a town-wide speed reduction would require legislative action. So we do have the data for that, but that would be a separate process than what's captured in this policy.
So,
So the town manager can currently restripe or stripe streets, so that's a current tool that's currently in. And the speed limit reduction request by citizens is a separate policy that's already adopted by the board. It doesn't change that. And speed bumps are not listed on there. The speed table is, which is a more gradual and then distance and then down. And it would be a very specific engineered design for a specific place, and it's not, staff is in concurrence with that. The speed humps, tear up the fire department's fire trucks. It can cause havoc in an EMS vehicle. Public Works snow plows can catch those, and if we're lucky, we tear up the hump and not a dump truck. So, yeah, those are very rare and specifically designed things, but speed bumps we don't do anymore.
Yeah, I guess I would just say that in the definitions part of the policy where it sort of expands on what a speed table is, it does say also called speed bumps. And I think that we're probably on the same page about the very limited, like in the downtown, I think it makes a lot of sense for that pedestrian connectivity and really getting folks to not just fly through a downtown business core. I'd love for that to be something that maybe we talk about a little bit, maybe rises to the level of the plan for a particular streetscape project or something like that, not just a discretionary citizen or initiated staff determined process. I don't ever want there to be a scenario. I mean, I think I've been pretty clear about that, where speed bumps pop up. So I guess that's the first piece. I'd love to hear if other folks are interested in maybe just eliminating that provision from this policy, recognizing that there may be some times when a very strategically designed table, traffic table, is appropriate in a very specific place in the future that we could still talk about, but not implemented through this policy.
The speed tables defined in the traffic calming devices would cost more than a capital project, so the board would have to approve it each year in its capital plan as well. So y'all do have an approval process for anything of that scale or scope.
So would it be, I mean, I guess from a staff perspective, would there be an issue with just pulling that part out of this policy so that it is clearly a separate thing?
Absolutely not.
Can we leave the chicanes in? They seem fun. What? Can we leave the chicanes in? They seem fun.
Yeah. And then one last question, just can you talk a little bit about, and some of this I know we can just talk about informally, but I'd love, assuming that this is adopted and implemented, some sort of, at least for the first year or so, some information to us about what, clearly about what's happening. We always want to know what is happening, but also if there are requests that are initiated by citizens and as they're going through the process are deemed, or you know, through that flow chart, they stop for some reason because they don't meet one of the qualifications. I'd love just over the first year or so of the policy to get some reporting just about when that's happening, so we kind of understand how it's working in practice. So that's not anything I need to change, but just would like to say that.
Maybe include that in our Friday memo or something like that as those things are going through. I thought the same thing. I felt like Commissioner Boyette was sitting up here when I read speed bumps. I thought, oh lordy. For those that don't know, he was a fireman as well, and anytime that ever even was breathed, he didn't like that. So.
Yeah, and to your point, I think next steps, if the policy would be adopted by the board, you know, staff would work with communications manager to educate the public, make them aware that this process now exists. There would be a form on the website. We are rolling out a new website later this year, so it will be a fillable form within the new website. We also will have paper versions of the form that people can fill out, so there is an easy way for us to collect that data and report out, so the board is aware of what types of requests we're receiving and how they are going through that process.
Awesome.
Anything else?
I got a motion for you when you want it.
I got a quick question,
Yes.
if you don't mind. So we've discussed, speed data was mentioned a couple times, and then we talked about data collection and traffic enforcement. So what is the exact definition of speed data?
So the police department have the roadside measures that are able to collect the speed data in a particular location. So if we receive a report of speeding in an area, part of what we want to do is confirm that there is in fact speeding that meets the criteria of the policy in that area. So the police would be able to set up that measure and collect that data for us
And
as
that
part
is
of the process.
collected through the, I guess, the sign, speed limit is, your speed is, type thing. And then as far as the enforcement piece, so I know that we go out, we observe, we set up the, I guess, the devices. Do we have data to show, okay, Sally Smith is reporting on this street, we have issues, we put a sign out, here's our percentage, I think the trigger was 15%. I know that we always err on the side of education, but, you know, we've educated X number of drivers, we've enforced written citations for X number of drivers. I assume all of that is considered the speed data part?
That is all data that we do have access to that could be reported out as part of the process.
Because I think sometimes I hear they're speeding here, they're speeding there, you report it out. But then I think to Commissioner Eatman's point, if we're asking someone to report it and not just, you know, mention it to me, like there's a formal method to go about it.
To clarify, there's historical data of how often the police department is there and doing enforcement activity and education. And then there's the engineer warrant, which is a certain percentage of it's a certain amount above the posted speed limit for a certain percentage of vehicles. And that's done through the speed study on the street, not the enforcement action. There's two separate things there. And the speed study is done not just with the flashing one, but there's stealth strips also, or it can be an officer getting data by other means in that location. So there's two, but they track it over a specific period of time. It has to meet that criteria for it to move on. Once that moves on, then their enforcement day, like the always stops that were just installed on 3rd and Hollybrook, DOT approached us with crash data for that intersection. So it's detailed crash data from DOT, from our Public Works, from the police department that warrant the installation of that traffic calming measure in that intersection. That's what we're talking about by that wording. It's not the citizen having to say, I'm observing this. That's what's drawing that.
Yeah, I understand. I just want to make sure, and again, to Commissioner Eaton's point, if it's mentioned, did you actually take the next step and formally request it? And if you got, you know, if you didn't make it past step whatever, I think it would be helpful to hear that information, at least initially, so we have kind of a finger on that a little bit.
Understand.
Is that it? Anyone else? All right, Commissioner Eatman, you have a...
Yeah, I'd like to move that we adopt the town traffic calming policy with the elimination of references to speed tables.
So we have a motion to adopt the Town of Wendell traffic calming policy with the elimination of the speed table or speed bump. Is that correct?
Perfect.
Okay. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Item 6B is a facade grant for number 10 South Main Street. Matt Gardner, anything?
Good evening. Continuing with our sort of downtown theme here tonight, Dr. Mark Vardy has applied for a facade grant for 10 South Main Street. The applicant proposes the replacement of the awnings, exterior painting, masonry repair, and window and shutter replacement. The applicant has provided the policy required documents, including the two quotes for the full scope of work, the lower of which is $35,038.59, which is a fairly significant investment. And per the facade grant policy, the improvements encompass two facades, one on 3rd Street and one on Main Street, which make the project eligible for up to 2 separate $5,000 grants totaling $10,000, which the applicant has requested. In your packet, you've seen some screenshots of what it looked like, and if you drive by it now, you can see some of those improvements have already begun being made. And Dr. Mark Vardy is here if you have any questions for the applicant.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board for staff or the applicant?
Quick note to staff, just
Yeah,
perennial reminder that I really would love for us to incorporate some sort of historic preservation standards into the policy around this grant program. I think it's really good. I think this project's really good. I'm really glad all this work's happening in downtown. Would like to tie our carrots to some best practices in historic preservation while we're at it.
Yes, sir.
maybe since we're in our budget process now, it would be a good time to draft that to begin with our next fiscal year. Maybe.
We'll move into it as soon as our staff time and resources
Yes.
allow after budget.
Yeah.
There is a strategic initiative that y'all provided a top priority.
We did.
That covers this, in response to Commissioner
This would be in
Eaton's prior
in
comment.
furtherance of that
Yeah.
initiative, yes. But the change of the fiscal year is a good time maybe to start that, so, okay.
Madam Mayor, I move we approve the facade grant request for 10 South Main Street.
All right, we have a motion to approve the facade grant request for 10 South Main Street. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll move into our other business, update on board committees by town board members. The first is Capital Area Planning Organization, Commissioner Eatman.
Thank you, Mayor. We had a CAMPO meeting recently where we covered some pretty standard items, including a transportation improvement plan amendment that included some accommodations to our schedule for our lap sidewalk project, as well as Mingo Creek Greenway in Nightdale. Hopefully that can connect to Greenways in Wendell before too long, and the 540 project. So those are sort of the regional things included in those amendments. Also the Wake Bus Plan, which we've talked about here before, staff has presented on, but I think that the realignment of the Zebulon-Wendell Express route through Wendell Falls is really exciting, as well as the future mobility hub in town and the extension and long-term of the Nightdale bus route to Wake Tech, or the new Wake Tech campus. And we're going to have our regular annual, biannual joint meeting with the Durham Chapel Hill Carborough MPO on Wednesday this week in person. So I think I mentioned last time that we were maybe about to have an in-person meeting. This will actually be our real first CAMPO in-person meeting in quite some time. So I'm looking forward to that, and we'll have a report afterwards.
Okay, thank you. Triangle J Council of Governments, Commissioner Deloach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Pretty short meeting this past time. Handful of new employees that were introduced. Sort of speaks to the talent that they're hiring, that they have to break it out into different sessions for each meeting, so we don't go over introducing new employees the entire meeting. It's kind of humorous. A couple folks that they've introduced recently are actually leaving the COG because they have talented people. So constant struggle. Glad to see that Wendell has been able to retain folks. Also discussed a name change. We always struggle with the Triangle J Council of Government, TJ COG, so we will actually see that come before this board at some point in the near future. The hope is to rebrand with a new name, Central Pines Regional Council. Nice logo as well, pretty cool. Can't wait for you guys to see it. 7 counties, triangles, create a pine cone logo, so pretty fancy stuff. But short meeting again, and we will meet hopefully all in person next time. So.
Thank you. All right, we'll move into our commissioners' reports and start with Commissioner Joyner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Wanted to see Mr. White in the room tonight. I know that he has a big anniversary coming up. I was looking down the board. I think half this board has never had an opportunity to do anything for 50 years. And occasionally I poke at Mr. White, and he will remind me that I'm not old enough to have done anything quite yet. but I wanted to congratulate him on 50 years of serving our community as the Chevrolet dealer here in Wendell. There's a lot of people in this town that have done a lot of things for a long time. You're certainly one of them, and certainly have plenty to be proud of. There are a ton of things going on that are coming up in the coming weeks. Look at the town website, look at any or all of our social medias, but there's a lot going on in Wendell, and I'm not going to attempt to name it all. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Commissioner Lutz?
I just had one thing to just talk about tonight. We, with the traffic calming efforts that have come before us here, whenever I travel, I always look at things that are going on in other towns and things I like and little ideas that seem interesting. And I know it's been discussed here before, but, you know, simple, better marked crosswalks and a simple flashing light. As we were out of town this weekend and traveling somewhere and going on a walk and crossing a road that had a lot of traffic, it was just amazing how just a simple button that you could hit where lights would flash, cars just came to a halt. And I know I've had the trouble of crossing Wendell Boulevard at certain times. I know other parents have had trouble with kids on bikes crossing it, so it's amazing just when you have lights flashing at cars coming towards you, how quickly they just seem to kind of slow down and let you cross. And even signs and marked places on the road, people just seem to kind of blow right through that over and over again. So I really look forward to kind of having that, you know, in the core of our downtown, connecting so much business to so much residential. So that was all. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Eatman?
Nothing else tonight.
Thank you. Commissioner Torneski?
Good evening, Mayor. I'd like to say tonight, glad to see all the investment in our downtown with the Grill Billies adding on to what they're doing, and the beautification of 10 Main Street, making it look good downtown Wendell. And also, I like those crosswalks. When I was in Key West, there were several of those, and they really work well. I'd like to see that in Wendell also. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Commissioner Deloach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Real quick, I just want to say thank you, Barry Perry, for being here. Obviously, Paul White. We've got dignitaries here. Joe Pino was not here, but I will say that Joe and Sherry are real big ambassadors and advocates for our town, for our downtown. And when I'm out traveling, it's one of those things that, you know, Grill Billy's is really a destination for Wendell. So it's really cool to see when you're out and about. Competition, backyard, you know, smokers, cookers, all the accessories. So I just want to say that, to my knowledge, Grill Billy's is not going away. Joe and Sherry are improving things there, so I don't feel like if you tuned in late, nothing's happening there except better things on the horizon. So thank you, Joe and Sherry, for all you guys do here in Wendell. That's it.
Yeah, they bought a house in Wendell recently.
Yeah, they started their business originally in Wake Forest. I used to live in Wake Forest, knew where it was, and used to joke with Joe about how he was working minimal hours in Wake Forest because business was infinitely better in Wendell. So they have eventually closed that location. Everything has moved to Wendell. So if you are a competition cooker, if you're looking for a gift, this is not I guess I am promoting them at this point, but if you need a Father's Day gift, cooking classes at Grill Billy's. Bring them to Wendell.
Yeah. My husband loves the classes. It's big fun. Thank you. I'm going to go through, I've got a list. Real quickly, the Launch Wendell program is still looking for mentors from business owners who are willing to share their knowledge and entrepreneurial program with the program beginning in April, ending in July. It'll only be an hour to 4 hours a month, depending on how much is needed and how much you choose to put in it. You can apply at launchwendell.com. We urge you to please participate in that. Reminder that the next Wendell Market is going to be April 6th from 6 to 9. The market's really been great this year so far. The first one was great with a lot of new great vendors, so please come and check that out. We still have openings for citizen advisory boards that will become available in June. You can send your application in by April 30th to be considered, and appointments will be made in May. And the applications can be found on the town website. Quick reminder also that Camp Choices is back this year. It's going to run June 12th through 16th at the Wendell Community Center. This is a free camp for kids aged 9 to 12, and that's the age at the time of the camp. Parents looking to enroll their children in Camp Choices can pick up an application at the Wendell Police Department or, probably online as well, Chief? Not online, just at the police department, okay, thank you. And, they're also looking for volunteers to help with camp, ages 13 to 22. I know that I get asked a lot about volunteer opportunities for children in Beta Club and National Junior Honor Society and things like that, so here's a good chance for that. You can get more information if you just want to give a call to Gina Hinton at 919-365-4445, or again, you can stop by the Wendell Police Department. Also, they asked me to let you know that Monday, April 10th, the day after Easter, GFL will be collecting trash. It's always some confusion around the Mondays that fall after holidays, so there will be trash collection on that day. I wanted to mention quickly, since we met last, we've had a lot of exciting things happening in Wendell. One of them was the Pleasant Grove Community Funding. We welcomed Congresswoman Deborah Ross to Wendell for a check presentation of $2 million towards a project that's the rehabilitation of the Old Carver School, the site of the Rosenwald School. It's going to be a community center. It's in furtherance of our park plan to bring park opportunities all over Wendell. It's exciting to me because it's a public-private partnership, and I think those things are very exciting. I like to see that happening between the town of Wendell, the Pleasant Grove Baptist Church, with support from the federal government, Wake County, the town of Wendell, and some others that we're putting the squeeze on as we speak. So we're trying to get as much money together as we can. It's a big project, it's very exciting, and I look forward to what these relationships are going to bring to Wendell. This is very exciting. And it's in furtherance of one of our strategic initiatives that was discussed tonight. So there you are, we're doing the things that we said we were going to do. Another one is the Wendell Community Arbor Day celebration. This was celebrating 40 years as a Tree City USA designation, and to do that, we planted 40 trees in Wendell in one morning. The trees were donated by citizens and businesses and groups, and there were volunteers of groups that were out helping those that needed some assistance. It was wonderful to look out at the crowd and see collections of people in baseball and softball uniforms because they were there with their team, or they may have had on hoodies from a company that's here in Wendell, so they were all dressed alike, and it was just really nice, a wonderful day in Wendell. It made me really proud to look out and see them. Special thank you to the Triangle Lightning 8U girls fast pitch softball team that helped me plant mine. I was standing there with my rake and my shovel with my husband, and the hole was dug, and we were going to plant ours, and they came over like a little swarm and just planted it. So we wanted to do it. Now I was like, okay. And before it was over, I was holding all their coats and drinks and stuff, and they planted the tree. So they were really fun and cute, and their first game's coming up April 1st. So good luck to those young ladies. They were only 8 years old. They really did a great job on my tree. So I appreciate them doing that. And I had one other thing. I wanted to mention too. This past Saturday, we had our Pro Town BMX show back in Wendell, and I really wanted to recognize Parks and Rec staff for having to have a lot of flexibility with the rain. It rained, and it stopped, and it rained, and they literally were blowing the street with blowers to get it dry so that the bike show could go on. So between the Parks and Rec director, Jeff Pulaski, on that Saturday, and Philip Smith, Parks and Rec employee who is in charge of our tree board for Arbor Day, I just can't tell you how proud I am of that group tonight. So they're really working hard for all of you. So I appreciate that. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, we're adjourned. Yeah, it's a mouthful. They printed out for me, and I'm like, oh, it's a lot.